What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist here with the one, the only, the spine-tingling, the three-legged foot man.
Gershwan.
And today we're back at it to answer questions that you guys leave below in a little installment of videos that we like to call For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put question in front of your question because we get those questions first. You know what's going to bother me? There's like a little space right here.
I see it
covered.
now. Yeah. Fill it in with your imagination.
Yes.
Or maybe you guys would have never noticed, but since he pointed it out, that's all you're going to notice now.
Yeah, maybe some of you guys listen to us just as like a podcast type of thing, and
Yeah,
you guys are
true.
on your way to work and just listening to us. Then in that case, understand that there's a little piece on the screen that I don't like.
Anath Ardayaldar says, is the Big E a failure, as everything he worked for is either crumbling or corrupted? Or is he playing a bigger chess game and everything is going all according to his master plan?
So I think it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Like he found out about the Chaos Gods, tried to create a plan, realized that the plan probably didn't work, and then what is it called? He adapted. So I do think that part of the plan is for him to stay on the Golden Throne.
You really think so? Because wasn't Magnus supposed to be the one on there?
Oh, so that's what I mean. He adapted it to the point where it's like, well, obviously I need to stay on here for self-regeneration. Like it's my to sustain his well-being, or no, his life. But I feel like if he could detach and just like, basically, because he's a perpetual, so like technically he's not going to die, or he can't die. But he's staying on there because of the whole him becoming a god, being worshipped, and all that kind of stuff. So in my mind, I think his end goal is like, let me defeat chaos by becoming a god.
Yeah, I think based on what's happening now, that's probably the way that it was going to go, which veers differently than him trying to be all abolish religion, order, law, science. That's what it should be about. And you saw where that got him. So yeah, he had to adapt and kind of go back on his stance.
Right, because like if we take this question as like, did the emperor fail from what his original stance was back in during the Great Crusade? Yeah, he failed because humanity was supposed to take care of themselves. They're not.
No.
They still need space marines. They still need like religion, all that kind of stuff in order to stay up. But yeah, so.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't think because he's supposed to be like a prognosticator. He's supposed to kind of know the future. But it's like one of those That's So Raven thing where you see the future and you think you're doing things to change it, but it's actually playing right exactly to that future that you saw. So it's like no matter what, it's going to happen, and he's just trying to adapt to that. And I mean, we all know that the Emperor isn't perfect, but everybody praises him like a god and makes him seem like he's perfect, but he's not. He's far from that.
Yeah.
There are so many different obstacles, actions, and ideas that he put into action that were the wrong thing.
Right.
Yeah, when it comes to the Emperor, he's just over-embellished, in my opinion.
Yeah. There was another thing, too, that you mentioned that made me think, like, no, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah. If you guys think the Emperor is all perfect, all knowing, let us know why in the comments down below. Or are we just simply heretics?
Yep. Next question comes from Magashi Saizen. I feel like when I was reading that, I felt like it was one of those like bend over type of names.
Yeah.
In a world where most races named characters have massively long lifespans, how do the Tau remain relevant in the lore with the obvious exception of Farsight? Stasis vaults.
Yes, this was a simple question, yeah. They get put into stasis, sleep, frozen, cryo sleep.
It's really cool. You should check out our 40 facts on the 8. That one's interesting because they have to alter the story to fit 7
and one robot.
Yeah, so they're trying to figure out, like, obviously Farsight lives this long because
the Dawnblade.
But the average lifespan of a Tau is 40 years?
40 years, 40 human years.
Which is, since the Damocles Gulf Crusade happened, it's been way more than 40 years. So like, how do they account for that? And they all do like really good ways of. They're clever.
Yeah. Because honestly, it's like 40 years is a freaking blink in the eye of like the galaxy. So it's like, how is Shadow Sun still leading this crusade and that crusade? And why was she pertinent here? They put her to sleep and only call them out when they need them.
Yeah. There's one of them that has like regenerative nano robots, like baby, like little micro drones that.
Baby drones.
Baby drones. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's ways around it. If it's like human lives and stuff like that, augmentics, cybernetics, warp is a huge thing because you could go into the warp and come out before or after timeline wise. So that's another way of making these named characters, last for thousands of years.
Eventually, if GW continues to progress the story in terms of time, there will come a point where it's like, like Lysander has been around for more than what a Space Marine's supposed to be around, or like Pedro Cantor. Is he still alive? Yeah, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So I wonder, when are they going to start killing off characters? That's my question.
Yeah, it's been a while since like a huge one got the axe.
Yeah, the last one was the Eldar.
Yeah, Eldrad Orthan. And it's like, well, maybe he's not dead. Maybe he's still like in the Infinity Circuit or whatever, and they can pull his soul out.
Yeah. Next question.
This one's by the Senate. Would the Lost Legions have had access to Mark IV armor before their disappearance? It depends, because we don't really know exactly like the Lost Legions when they got taken out. There's like a rough timeline, but depending on if they got inducted into the Ultramarines, then obviously they could have access to that since they're still kind of integrated into the war machine of the Imperium. Or maybe not. Like I said, it's very up in the air as to what is what.
Right.
I recently did a video going over everything we know about the Lost Legions, so check that out. I think it came out last week. So that'll give you all the insight, all the inklings in the lore as to the little clues as to who, what, where, when, why.
Yeah.
Whomst.
This next question comes from Andre Nietzsche. What was the first species encountered by humans, and how did the meeting go?
Isn't it the orcs?
Yeah, so in the lore, this comes from, I think, the 5th edition rulebook, the little mini one that used to come in the Battlefield of Prague. I remember those. So in that one, it said that the orcs were first encountered by humanity, and then obviously they just were attacked. Humanity tried to talk to them, didn't work, and the Emperor understood at that point that, like, the galaxy is full of like really vicious, terrible creatures, and there's no way to negotiate with them. I need to create super warriors, because humans cannot like take them out. Not even like the Imperial Knights and stuff like that, or whatever the STCs were creating. And so part of the reason why Space Marines were created is because they had to fight threats like the orcs. But yeah, orcs.
Yeah, and that's why xenophobia became so rampant. Because when the orcs are their first Xenos you encounter, you're going to assume, oh crap, everybody's going to be as tough, stupid, and fighty as the orcs.
Right, yeah. Next question.
This one is by ZOA106. How many custodies would it take to beat a Primarch? Also, who do you think would win if all the Primarchs fought all the custodies?
The Primarchs would win.
Yeah. Custodies are essentially like demigods, where like Primarchs are the gods. So maybe 1 or 2 Primarchs would fall, but like at the end of the day, like they're still gonna win. Primarchs are like built for tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a little bit of lore in one of the novels. I forget which one. I think it's like Horus is sparring with one of the custodies. I forget who it was. Trajan Valorous? Or maybe the other one. But he was like sparring with them. And obviously it's just a spar or whatever. And the custody actually beat him. Like he disarmed Horus. So it could just be like that the custody was actually trying. And then Horus was like half-assing it. But again, they were just sparring. So
yeah. And then whenever we have these types of questions, always think of it as like a percentage. Like, because an outcome can happen of an Adeptus Custodes killing all the Primarchs, like, or if the 2 factions battled. But what are the chances? Probably like 20%, or maybe even less. But yeah.
And you also got to think of it like these novels are written in this perspective of a certain viewpoint. So obviously it's going to be tailored towards that to fit the narrative.
Right. And then this next question comes from Sam Jackson. Wait, what? The custodies are augmented humans? I thought they were space marines. Yeah, they're not space marines. Mm-mm. Space marines, you should check out our 40 Facts and Lore on the recruitment of an Adeptus Custodes. They're basically, like, they're babies that get augmented right away. Their life cycle accelerates crazy, and yeah.
Yeah, these guys are essentially like the pinnacle of like creation. Well, no, because then primarks were also created. So they're
strong.
They're chingon, man.
Next question.
This one's by the Senate. So you guys have talked about custom legions and chapters, but what about custom weapons? I feel like when you're actually creating custom weapons for the game of 40K, it is a very fine line as finding something that works perfectly. Because you could easily say, oh, this is a bolter, but it deals mortal wounds. Then that could be overpowered. Or this is a bolter, but it deals less damage but more AP. Then it could be like, well, it could be underpowered. So it's like a fine line to find it. And then you got to tweak the points and all that. So when you're creating custom weapons, it's very difficult to make it work with the game.
And I wouldn't even recommend that you do that unless you have a set like play group that's cool with it. What you should do is in every single codex there are these things called relics. So you just take a relic and you build a story around it, and you take those stats.
Right.
So like there's a bike that's like perfect for like a speed freak war boss. You would build a story around, like, make it kind of like the bike of the apocalypse, kind of like with the WAAAGH.
Yeah.
And then you homebrew that whole thing to that relic.
Right.
Use those relics as rules. And the game lets you do that.
Yeah. So just keep the stats the same, just change the lore around it.
Yeah. And that's always fun.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you got a power sword. Nah, this is the sword of infinity.
Yeah. And then we'll do one last question. This one comes from Justice777. I want to get into painting. Which individual mini is the best for a hobby virgin? Space Marines.
Yeah, they give you just enough to have like a variety of colors to use. The details aren't too crazy depending on which Space Marine you get. And chances are Space Marines are probably going to be the army you're going to stick with. So it'll give you a good base to kind of flourish from there.
Yeah, when you throw a wash on a Space Marine, because of all of the armor and like the little nooks and crannies, it looks really cool. So like it's really simple for a beginner to just be like, lay the primer, then the paint, wash, dry brush, you're done. And then that encourages you because then you're like, yeah, I'm pretty good. And then later you can go back and, you know, learn about, edge highlighting and like all the different styles of painting.
Yeah.
Which edge highlighting to me is so fucking boring.
Is it worth it though?
I've seen some people who have white.
And they edge highlight
white. Yeah.
Hey, to each their own, right?
Yeah. But those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and listening. And we'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah. This has been The Sound Alchemist.
Gershwin.
And we are out.
Always used to put my freedom first.